website, get onto the Have Your Say bit and tell them what you reckon to their plans to put 87 miles of pylons that go through from Grimsby down right through Lincolnshire to Walpole in Norfolk. It's needed, they say, to get offshore energy, sustainable energy, down through the country. But many in Lincolnshire are not happy, including Simon Adderley from Sutton-on-Sea, who is one of the founders of No Pylons Lincolnshire. It's a campaign group that's started on Facebook. Simon's here with you. Morning, Simon.
Good morning to you.
How did this Facebook group blow up after you started it? Tell me.
Oh, my word. The last 5 weeks has just been amazing. National Grid spent years working on this project and then all of a sudden dropped on us that they were going to bring these pylons through Lincolnshire. I just saw it as being horrific. I set up a Facebook page. Other people up and down the county did the same thing. We realised that we were all talking about the same problem and all had the same feelings. So we joined together and we created No Pylons Lincolnshire.
And there is a strong feeling from those who are expecting to get their views of the countryside interrupted. And some, actually, it's more than just a view. It's a substation maybe being built and, agricultural land being given over. What's your worry about it, Simon, personally? Why not a line of pylons?
I guess the fundamental thing is the pylons is the wrong solution. It's archaic and it's just not required. The rest of the countries that surround the North Sea and take energy off the North Sea are using an offshore integrated grid system. Every single one of them is doing that. In 2020, the National Grid did a report for themselves that they gave to Ofgem and national government, saying that the offshore grid solution was the best solution for the UK and would save us £8 billion over the period of establishing the National Grid.
What's the National Grid saying about this, though? Because I don't think it agrees with you about this offshore grid solution.
Well, the National Grid are saying that it's going to cost too much money. They say the onshore, the pylon system is going to cost £1 billion to do that, and it's going to cost £4.39 billion to be offshore. Fundamentally, the £1 billion hasn't been costed in line with the Green Book rules, which is what the government rules say, that any national infrastructure projects have to be costed by the Green Book rules, because that takes into account loss of farmland revenue, damage to tourism, devaluation in houses. So it's a true cost.
So you've unearthed this, have you, in your research? That they haven't costed it according to those rules or terms. Okay.
Yes.
And so earlier you were hearing from Councillor Martin Hill, leader of the County Council, and he just thinks that the figures for putting a line on the seabed are too high, that the National Grid have come up with a too high figure. So put those two together, you've got your doubts.
Absolutely. The pylon cost doesn't include the substations. The substations are costed at about £500 million each, according to a National Grid, and there's 5 of those. To give an idea of how much cabling is cost around the rest of the world, Shetland signed off on a 68-kilometre run from Shetland to the mainland, only last week, £400 million. German government has just signed off on one for 4,300 kilometres, £4 billion. Viking Link that they've just finished, and that's National Grid in conjunction with the Danish company, 1.79 billion, and that was for 473 kilometres. And yet National Grid are saying 100 kilometres offshore is going to cost 4.39 billion. The numbers don't add up.
Yes, they're saying £1 billion on the land above ground and 4.3 billion we've got here to put them offshore. Now, of course, we've approached National Grid. They've been on this programme to explain, and they do say that they understand these plans, including the pylons, raise concerns with communities, and we will be giving careful consideration to environmental and community impacts and to the feedback we receive. And the deadline is open till the 13th of March, so that's 2 days' time. Are you confident that they're going to change their minds?
I'm confident that we've got a really strong case. I'm not very confident that the infrastructure and the way that it works because it bypasses all our local controls. This is basically between Ofgem, National Grid and the Secretary of State. Our voice will need to be very loud and clear so the Secretary of State understands exactly what we're saying and the strength of public objection. We have done exit polls on the consultations that National Grid have held in various villages. 97.3% of people who are walking out of those consultations are against the pylons. And we do live in a democracy, or did last time.
How many people is that, though? What's the sample size?
Alford was 700 people turned up. North Thoresby, there was 300.
But Alford is going to be surrounded pretty much by the pylons, isn't it? And that is a very... on the more extreme end of disruption. But when you take a look at the route as a whole, National Grid might argue that it's picked a fairly non-disruptive route, considering the length of the line of pylons.
Well, they've certainly picked a low population route, an extremely rural area, a beautiful part of the world that we all treasure, and we've been maintaining this way for generations. When they sent out their information packs, they only sent them to people 2 kilometres either side of the pylons. So there's a huge amount of people that don't even know that this is happening. And we're getting that every single day. I mean, the Facebook page and the website hits are becoming, are growing dramatically because this is growing organically now. I mean, we're making a lot of noise, and radio stations like this are really helping us get the message out there. But there's so many people who don't know about it.
Yes, although, just to try to reflect a different view, to be fair to all views,
of course,
it's not like anyone's proposing to build a motorway through the county with the noise and the traffic and the building work. We are just talking about metal, fairly non-invasive compared to a motorway, structures.
Well, maybe compared to a motorway, but these pylons aren't silent. We get a lot of coastal fog and a lot of coastal moisture, and that will make these pylons pop and crackle all the time.
Rice Krispies.
So that will be really invasive. And the other thing is that once they get permission to run one set of pylons through our county, they will automatically get a right to run 2 sets. So we're not talking just about one run of pylons and 5 substations that could be up to 180 acres each. We're also talking about another set of pylons. Well, once they've set the precedent to do this, this is going to become an industrial avenue through Lincolnshire.
Simon, thank you for coming in this morning from Sutton-on-Sea. It sounds like you have done a lot of work here. I bet you must feel like, well, a tiny bit like Mr. Bates and the post office. Your house is at Pylon HQ at the moment. Let's see how this turns out then. So just to remind you, you've got to go on the National Grid website by Wednesday, the end of Wednesday, to get your views in to the National Grid. Thank you. And we'll leave it there for now. 11:30 the time.